Hello, everybody. I'm Carlos Nolasco, and now I would like to share with you my final project for psycholinguistics. This is a fairly new topic since it has not been addressed on a large scale in the last decade. And at the same time, it represents a way for me to be able to innovate at my university, UPEL Maturin, in such a way to include new perspective and modern trends in teaching English as a foreign language. The title of this is Analysis of the Mental Lexicon in a Student of English as a Foreign Language at UPEL Maturin. Let's just take a look. Lexicon is one of the most important aspects to consider when learning a foreign language. The mental lexicon is a research topic that has received great attention in modern linguistics. The study of the mental lexicon focuses on the organization and structure of words in the human mind, and how speakers access this information during the process of producing and understanding language. Lexical access in interlanguage is an essential area of study in the acquisition of second languages that has generated a great continued interest in academic community. The acquisition of a second language is a complex process that involves the construction of an intermediate linguistic system known as an interlanguage. In it, the student's progress could be seen towards communicative competence in the target language. This process is essential in the development of communicative proficiency in a second language and has been studied in applied linguistics and psycholinguistics. However, there are still unanswered questions and unexplored aspects in this area that requires more detailed investigation. Although some advances have been made in understanding the mental lexicon, and despite the advances in understanding second language acquisition, interlanguage lexical access remains as an underexplored terrain with fundamental questions in need of answer. It is for this reason that the present work focuses on the study of the mental lexicon in students of English as a foreign language and tries to explore the path that is shown by some theoretical approaches used as basis support of this work. The main objective of this work is to analyze how students acquire and use vocabulary in the process of learning English as a foreign language. The main idea of this research seeks to contribute to knowledge in this field and provide new perspective for the teaching and learning of the lexicon in a student of English as a foreign language. Problem statement. The mental lexicon can greatly affect how foreign language learners think and behave. It is very frequently noticed that some students have problems building adequate concepts due to the misuse of certain common or inappropriate phrases. One of the disadvantages in learning the lexicon is that students use many popularized expressions that do not really reflect what they are trying to express. It is here where my interest and curiosity begin in knowing how these erroneous expressions influence students and how comfortable they can feel expressing themselves this way, without realizing that as future teachers, they should build forms of vocabulary that correspond to their profession. In this case, it may add that we could also consider how learners of English as a foreign language process and activate the lexicon in both languages, and how the interference between the two languages can influence the organization and access to the mental lexicon. In this instance, the aim would be to learn more about how the mental lexicon in bilingual people acts and how teachers could help to develop better teaching and learning strategies for second language, as well as to better understand how our brain stores and processes linguistic information. This finding could have implications for second language teaching and for understanding the cognitive processes involved in language use. As teachers, it is necessary for us to give ourselves some time to reflect, to discover if all this study makes sense. However, it is possible to realize more clearly that As long as we continue to ignore this problem, English teachers with a very low lexical level will continue to be trained. On the other hand, the acquisition of a second language implies lexical access and management of verb tenses in the interlanguages, which represents a transition phase in which students develop linguistic skill. Verb tense, such as present, past, and future, are essential for communication. However, on many occasions, it is difficult for us to understand how students access the lexicon and manage tenses in oral communication, as well as how the mother tongue influences their use. Justification. The acquisition and use of mental lexicon are fundamental aspects in learning language, since vocabulary knowledge is the basis for effective communication. In the case of students of English as a foreign language, the mental lexicon represents a challenge due to the complexity of the language and the need to learn a wide number of words and expressions. In this sense, this research has a marked importance since it addresses the lexical access in the interlanguage of students of a second language. In doing so, it will shed light on the underlying cognitive processes that influence vocabulary acquisition and use, and in an intercultural and linguistic context. Having the student know how mental lexicon could help them to improve their learning process so that they can overcome weaknesses they might show in the management of the lexicon. On the other hand, understanding how students access and use the lexicon in their interlanguage and how their mother tongue influences this process will not only enrich linguistic theory, but also fundamental pedagogical applications to improve the teaching of English as a foreign language and at the same time facilitate more effective communication in multilingual contexts, thus promoting interculturality and understanding and communicative competence. Research questions. This study is of great importance in the field of second language teaching, as lexical access in interlanguage is a fundamental component for successful communication in a second language. Understanding how learners access their vocabulary in interlanguage situations can contribute to educators and curriculum designers about how to create more effective pedagogical strategies and the identification of specific challenges that learners face. Additionally, it can also impact the growing literature on second language acquisition and the interaction between the native language and the target language in lexical production, thus enriching the body of knowledge in this ever-evolving field. In this sense, this investigation presents the following questions as a way to develop the research step in a very organized methodology. Question number 1. How does the mother tongue influence the use of the mental lexicon in English students in the process of acquiring the language as a foreign language in their spontaneous oral production? Second, what could be the difficulties and specific needs of the student when developing the acquisition and use of vocabulary with fluency and precision in their responses? Third question, what is the relationship between the knowledge of the mental lexicon and the performance in the capacity of comprehension and oral production in the development and training of the student of English as a foreign language? The main objective of this research work is to explore the mental lexicon and its relationship with memory and language processing. As we have seen before, the mental lexicon refers to the set of words that a person knows and is able to use in the daily communication. Through the use of various techniques, such as response speed in word recognition tasks, the aim is to understand how words are stored and processed in the brain. In addition, the possible implication of this research for language learning will be explored. Finally, This work is expected to contribute to a better understanding of the mental lexicon and how it influences language processing and human communication, especially in students of English as a foreign language. This way, the following objectives have been set up. General objective: analyze the process of acquisition and use of the mental lexicon in students of English as a foreign language, taking into account the influence of their mother tongue on their spontaneous oral production. As for the specific objectives, we have: first, identify the students' difficulties in speech needs regarding the acquisition and use of vocabulary by observing the fluency and precision in their responses. Second, establish the relationship between the knowledge of the mental lexicon and the performance in the ability of comprehension and oral production in the development and training of the student of English as a foreign language. And finally, determine how students of a second language handle verb tenses in their answers during oral interviews, exploring the coherency and forms of communication used in their spontaneous speeches. Methodology. Taking into account that the qualitative methodology is a very useful tool to carry out this research in relation to the mental lexicon, it was selected to accomplish this research. This approach is based on the collection and analysis of non-numerical data such as interviews, observations, and document analysis, with the aim of understanding the experiences, perceptions, and meaning that students attribute to a particular topic, such as in this case, the mental lexicon. The methodology is perfectly connected to the educational reality in which this research is carried out, which revolves around the students of UPEL Maturin. Therefore, it was selected as a guide for carrying it out. To develop this type of qualitative methodology on research about mental lexicon, the following steps were followed. First, the research topic was defined, in this case, the mental lexicon. Next, the participant was selected. It was taken into account that he has knowledge about the topic to be investigated. After that, the consent of the participant to participate in this research was obtained. However, it was agreed to protect his identity, and he will henceforth be identified as the student one. And finally, an agreement was reached to set the day, time, and meeting point for the interview. As for the instrument, to collect the information that was submitted to study in this investigation, an oral interview model instrument was developed. It contained open questions with the participant would answer in a period of 5 minutes, providing information about himself, his experience as a student of English, and his expectation as a future teacher. The instrument was validated by 3 male master students who agreed with its proposal. This way, its application was proceeded. Participant. The participant in this study was a student of the English specialty at Universidad Pedagógica Experimental Libertador, UPEL. The student was 26 years old, and he was in the 6th semester of the career. Due to ethical reasons, it was agreed to keep his identity protected. During this investigation, he will refer to as student 1. Precise. The interview was carried out orally for a period of approximately 5 minutes, and the responses were recorded by voice recording. The student was unaware of the questions that were going to be asked, which allowed him to express himself freely and spontaneously. The information obtained from the interview was transcribed and analyzed for the analysis, and qualitative approach was used, in which the words and expressions used by the students in each question were identified. In summary, it is evident that the qualitative methodology is a valuable tool to investigate the mental lexicon, since it's allowed to obtain a deeper understanding of the experiences and meaning that people show to this particular topic. In conclusion, this study has shown that the mental lexicon is a fundamental aspect of learning a foreign language, particularly English, and it is very necessary to understand that vocabulary acquisition is a complex process that requires constant exposure to the target language, as well as active practice and use of learned vocabulary. Students who have greater lexical awareness and a greater ability to infer the meaning of words from context are more likely to be successful in vocabulary acquisition. So, as long as they have a broader and more diverse mental lexicon, they could have a greater ability to communicate effectively and better understand spoken and written language, and as such, their teaching performance could tend to be more successful. In general, this study highlights the importance of promoting the development of the mental lexicon in students of English as a foreign language to improve their communicative skills. It is important that teachers of English as a foreign language focus their efforts on developing their student lexical awareness and provide them with opportunity to practice and actively use vocabulary in relevant communicative situations. With a proper pedagogy, we can help our students improve their lexical competence and therefore their ability to communicate effectively in English. Here are my references. This appendix shows the instrument that was developed to be applied to Student 1. It contains 5 questions which were validated by 3 MILE students who agreed on their approval. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you liked my presentation. Here are my social media. Thank you.